Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Mary O'Connell, bringing you the latest tech updates, warehouse news, and everything happening in the cold chain world. Not only is there the coolest show in freight, but there's also Running on Ice, a newsletter that could not be colder. You can subscribe to that on freightwaves.com/running on ice. Today, we welcome Melanie Patterson, founder and managing director at Team Integrity Knowledge Center and Integrity Global Logistics. Thank you so much for joining us today, Melanie.
Hello, 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 Mary. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited. For those who might not know, Melanie joined us on the Small Fleet Owner Operator Summit. And I thought we had a great conversation. We got into the world of government contracting and kind of how it relates. And I'm just, for anyone who hasn't checked that out, go back and watch it. Before we get too far into that, though, because that's ultimately what we're going to end up talking about today, let's get some background on you and kind of why you started Team Integrity Knowledge Center.
Yeah, the summit, let me say this, the summit, that was a really, really organic conversation. I had a ball. And so let's repeat that. Um, so yeah, Melanie Patterson, founder, CEO, all of those fancy things, but overall, truly a girl from Chicago who previously worked a 9 to 5. And so I have a master's degree in medicine, and I worked as an ER nurse practitioner. Along the side, transparently, I own some businesses. And so I said, what would it look like to jump into entrepreneurship myself? And I slide the chips across the table and I betted on myself. And boy, am I really glad that I did that. So I stepped away from my 9 to 5, got into transportation. I quickly realized, Mary, this industry, not only is it risky, but there's a lot of competition. And so I said, how am I going to scale this particular portfolio? Right. And I started to do the research. I came across grants and I was like, no, that's not quite it. Then I came across government contracting. I'm like, what is this? And so talked to the team. I said, let's restructure, make me 51% owner, and the history was it was history from there. And so we leveraged a transportation company, which in this industry, transparently, it's mainly Caucasian male ran and led. And so I inserted a very different type of approach and then added the government as one of our customers. First year, we did fairly well, landing our first contract. And I said, what is this? And so I just kind of dived in and I started to become passionate about government contracting. And we started to do fairly well, moving on from there. My girlfriend, a good friend of mine, said, Melanie, there's no way that you can pull this off in such a short period of time and not tell the people about this. And so I was like, all right, cool. Well, how do I do that? And where do I start? And she's like, you have to go to the internet. I'm like, oh, okay. Not sure about that. And she's like, you're going to need to start a consulting firm so you can help people. And that is where the inception and the birth of Team Integrity Knowledge Center came from. Just honestly being someone who learned from the ground up, got it from out the mud, as they say. And I just wanted to kind of share and tell other people about it.
That is something that I do love about it. Like you said, transportation and supply chain, it has a lot of competition, specifically along some of the smaller to mid-sized carriers, just the sheer nature of the business. But I have found that when you have some of those really good small and mid-sized carriers, they're the first to share those resources with each other. Back in my brokerage days, I had a carrier up in like North Dakota somewhere who was like, "Hey, if you," he was like, "I can't run on these days because I have to go run for this one guy. Because if I run one load a quarter for him, like I get a super big discount on tires, like getting new tires for trailers and tractors." And so I was like, okay, cool. And so I was like, well, you need to tell like these other four guys that we use all the time. I said, you need to tell them. And that way I'll just rotate you guys out accordingly so you can haul for them. And then like you can still haul for me. But this way everyone is kind of getting that discount and kind of, getting a little something something because it's expensive. And anything that you can do to kind of like help each other, I find that this industry specifically, while there is that hefty amount of competition, there is that urgency, like that immediate need to just jump in and be like, we're here to help. We're kind of in this together, but we're also still competition.
Yeah. I think that that is true. I feel that the smaller carriers identify with other smaller carriers, and the work that goes into building an empire, a company, an organization, a fleet, a transportation company. And one thing that I the reason why I say that I am still sticking with transportation to this day, because it reminds me of nursing. It's an essential role to the economy. We are the heartbeat to the economy, very similar to nursing and medicine. And so it's near and dear to me. And anything that I can do, my team can do to make sure that we stay in business, and not only stay in business, but also to scale within business. I'm down. I'm willing to share those resources and no gatekeeping, and hence team integrity, integrity global logistics, integrity transit company. We operate with integrity, and we really are just here to give back.
I absolutely love that, and that's something that, like, I think it also kind of ties into, we see a lot of, as in transportation, we see a lot of former athletes or a lot of former, like, Division 1 or people who just have that competitive nature in them, and because of that, you don't wanna compete against someone who's, like, on one leg with 2 arms tied behind their back because that's not f I don't wanna say it's not fun, but it's not fun, You wanna compete against others doing their best, providing the best, being the best that they can be, and if that means that sometimes you gotta come up behind them and be like, "Hey, you got 1 arm tied behind your back, I'm gonna come cut that rope, and now you got 2 hands, so let's get going." I just think that that kind of makes everyone better because if you're going around making everyone else better, then they're making people better, which in turns makes you have to be more creative, and also you can learn from each other, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I read a statistic that the transportation industry is made up of 90% of small carriers, 5 units or less. And so we are the majority.
Yeah, it's the because I know everyone thinks of like, oh, there's the big I honestly can't even name a giant carrier at this moment in time. It has all disappeared from my head. But there's like the big ones that you see on the earning calls and oh, like a Landstar or a Martin
So
or something like that.
Landstar, JB Hunt,
Yes, I don't know why my brain was just like, don't need to pay attention to names of carriers you talk about every day. Um like, there's, like you'll see all of those, and, those guys are doing things at, like, such a large scale that it doesn't make sense if you only have 2, 3, 10 trailers, that you're just kind of wondering, like, "Well, I don't necessarily wanna get to, 3,000 trucks. I don't necessarily wanna get to that level. I just wanna get to the level where, like, I don't know, maybe I can hire someone to run the business while I go do what I wanna do, or I can step back from being everything to everyone. Because a lot of times when you have, like, around 10 trucks, like, you're doing everything every day, and it gets exhausting, and you kind of just wanna be able to be like, "I need to be able to take a week off for my vacation," like, for me to have a vacation so I can come back better for the company, and, sometimes you just miss that you're just missing the skills and the tools you need to go from, like, those like 5 to 10 trucks to maybe up to 20 where you can hire like a fleet manager, you can hire people so that way I don't say you're not like as an owner, you're not needed every day, but like you can take a vacation and know that the company won't go bankrupt.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing that just kinda shot out for me was government contracting is friendly for the small carriers. Government contracting is, small business friendly, right? SBA, Small Business Administration, was built and put in place to support small businesses and small fleet owners and small carriers and small brokerage companies. They don't frown upon you just having, 5 trucks. They understand the importance of leveraging strategic partnerships, subcontracting opportunities, or, when you're looking at the freight brokerage side of things, leveraging your carrier pool to fulfill in that mission. And so, yeah.
That's something so kind of getting more into that, I know that typically when everybody thinks of government contracting, you're thinking, about the things that you see in the news, like your federal $3 bajillion of
Yeah.
award, or like you're seeing this like set 5 year, you have to move like 20 loads a week all across the US. But that actually isn't necessarily all that government contracting is, right? There's kind of maybe some smaller ones that smaller carriers can take advantage of.
Yeah. So, as we know, there's no secret the government is the world's largest customer. If you are a business owner looking to scale, add the government as a customer, right? They'll never file for bankruptcy. They'll always forever procure. And so it's a great customer to have. And so they do have the Crowleys of the world as one of their partners, right? But those are not the only organizations that they partner with. This is business. And so we have government opportunities on the local level, on the municipality level, on the county level, right in your backyard that you could be taken advantage of. Delivering of, refrigerated goods and food products from the warehouse that they're storing the school food, right? That needs to be delivered to the various different schools and city colleges in that particular city or state. And so those are great opportunities for small business owners to take on local level opportunities. Start to build your relationships with those contracting officers, those program managers on the local level, right in your backyard, right? And oftentimes, too, guys, those opportunities are your Monday through Fridays, which is what the drivers are looking for, right? I mean, I know me as an actual practitioner in the field of transportation, the drivers, they want to be home every night, right? Where are the OTR drivers? They're like so far and in between, right? Everyone wants to be home every night or every weekend. Well, this is what provides you that opportunity to increase your retention rate for some of those drivers who have to be local due to, obligations at home, or because they're just simply spoiled. Let's call it what it is, right? But those opportunities are available so that you can retain those local drivers.
I think that's so important as well because a lot of times when you're sitting there and you're left with all these drivers, you're gonna have the guys who are like, send me out for a week at a time. I don't care. Just like, I want to be home eventually. Or there are some guys that are like, I send me out for a month. I don't care. I will say that those are a little harder to find. But those drivers that like to have that day to day, that normalcy of be coming home at the end of the day, a lot of times that can be really hard to find as a dispatcher, as a carrier, as an owner of a company, because everybody wants that. So if this is another avenue you can take, and especially in your local community, it's not like your barrier to entry is like finding what office in Washington, DC you need to call right to, if it even is in DC, if it's not managed by like a federal field office. But if you are like, I need the Memphis County uh, just like procurement director, there's pretty good chance you can catch him at like a city hall meeting, or you can catch him out and about in the community if you're a community member. And you don't have to like kind of say like you don't have to hunt him down or anything. You just kind of be like, "Hi, my name's John. I own John Trucking. Nice to meet you." And then leave it at that. And then that way, when you submit your bid, you can say, "Hey, John Trucking, I met him. Let's give him some business. He's from the community."
Mary, you have a job. Would you like a job at Team Integrity? That's exactly how that works, to be quite honest, and, it's just refreshing to have a normal civilian person kinda be able to build those blocks because let's just be transparent. Government contracting, the word alone is daunting. The word alone, government contracting and transportation and logistics, add those 2 together. But it's doable. It's possible. And those are the building blocks that we establish at Team Integrity Knowledge Center with GovCon iSources. No, this is really realistic. Small, medium, this is really realistic. And this is what it looks like, right? What is the type of equipment that you have? Here, we're running on ice. We're talking about reefer, refrigerated goods. And so, how does the government procure that? Well, we need to do some research on the local level to see which government departments procure those refrigerated goods or goods overall that need to be moved, right? Because if you have a reefer, you have a dry van, right? If you If you're talking to me, if I have a reefer, I have a dry van, right? And so I can move that dry product as well. And so, what does that look like to start building those relationships with your local hospitals, your local universities, your local facilities that house orphans, right? So, let's talk about one opportunity that we're bidding on right now, which is warehousing and transportation. And so, yeah, we started this business and this empire on the transportation side, really was heavy with equipment, reefer. We started out in Chicago, and we know that the Midwest is favorable for reefer, refrigerated goods. And so I did my research, I studied, and I learned that. And so I went cash heavy with purchasing more reefer trailers than actual tractors, to be honest with you. Um, and so I understood the market, right, within my backyard. And I said, okay, cool. Well, who procures what I want to haul, what I can haul? What is my core competency? What can I provide? And so that's the storage and the transportation of this facility. I don't want to say the name, but this facility here in Illinois, which houses people who suffer from mental deficiencies, mental retardation, and because of that, they are the ward of the state because their parents gave them up at birth or parents couldn't handle a child in that condition. And so they purchase the food from the manufacturers, and they need a vendor to store the food in their refrigerated and dry warehouse. And then, along with that, provide them with the shipment of those food products to this huge facility that houses ward of the states, orphans. And so that's a live opportunity that we're bidding on now. That's I will partner, right? I will partner the warehousing side of it and I will handle the transportation end of things. And so that's what this conversation looks like when it comes to government contracting and transportation and logistics.
'Cause I mean, everyone in this industry knows someone that does something they don't because they've had to do something. So, like you said, you don't have a giant warehouse to hold everything,
Yep,
but you know someone who does.
yep,
And because you know someone, you're able like that's kind of the thing. When you go look at some of these opportunities, you're like, "Oh, well, I only have tractor trailers or I only have trailer like I only have the physical transportation part of things. I don't have warehousing. I don't have whatever else." Yeah, but you definitely know someone who does. Who do
yep.
you deliver to all the time? Call them up and say, "Hey, we've got this great opportunity. Do you wanna kinda go on in it together? Because we could this would be nothing but positive for both of us." And that's kind of the beginning of a relationship, assuming that you don't already have one, which I would be hard pressed to find a carrier who does not have a positive working relationship with an existing warehouse.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point because you're bumping those docks daily, right? And so you're bumping those docks either through direct relationships that you've landed or through a middleman, the broker, right? Nonetheless, your truck has bumped that dock. Now, imagine if you knock at that businessman's door, which job is to generate revenue for their business day in, day out, month in, month out, quarter in, quarter out. And I say, hey, how are you? My name is Melanie Patterson. I have all of the certifications, all of the adornment, everything that's needed to have a customer like this, but I don't have one thing that you have. What would it look like to partner? You provide me with the 6,000 square foot of storage, and I'll handle everything else. They're gonna say, "All right, cool. Tell me more." Right? And so that's how you start to build these strategic relationships.
That's literally the conversation that salespeople dream of just, like, someone coming and knocking on their door being like, "I have business that you could have. Would you like it?" They would literally like, I don't know anyone in sales, obviously, if it's not a scam or, like, fraudulent, that would go, "No." I don't know anyone who would say that. The first thing they would say is, "Come in, sit down, and let's talk about this more." Because no one just shows up to your building and says, "Excuse me, would you like to make money together?"
And make money with the government.
Exactly,
And
who's gonna
so
pay on time.
imagine those checks coming through your business bank account, which then opens up other opportunities when the funding institution realize that you're backed
Yeah.
by the government. Yeah.
It's it's just it seems so daunting because, like you said, government contracting with transportation and logistics, it seems very overwhelming. It seems like you're gonna just move nothing but top secret, classified goods that you're moving.
You
I feel
do, you
well,
do, you
yeah,
do, you
but
do.
it's not all out of an action movie, you know? The government needs
No.
bricks and produce, and they need pharmaceuticals moved,
So yeah,
they need plants moved.
yeah.
Um, Arbor Day is a big one around here. Our city government gives away free trees on Arbor Day. They don't just show up out of thin air.
No. No. So not only are the trees being procured, because the government has no trees, right? So not only are they buying and purchasing and procuring the trees, but they're also buying and procuring the logistics of the transportation of those trees. That's a great one. So when they're putting up community parks, when they are also we when contracts when they are revamping a forest preserve. Yes, they do revamp a forest preserve, if they're putting in a bike trail and they have to put the agriculture around, that particular region, that area, that's dump truck, right? So those are where our dump trucks are taking advantage of those opportunities and or our flatbeds. So that's for our customers and our clients who are dump truck and flatbed, those are our clients. Those are our customers within the government department, the government department paradigm.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
it's like if you just drive down the city that you live in street and you see, like, ours just put in a bunch of very fancy medians with glass blocks and bricks, and
Oh, wow.
look, I'm not gonna say it's the
I
best
bet
use.
it looks great.
It looks great until somebody hits it, and then it's a mess, but still, someone had to haul the stuff there to put it there, and there's trees in the middle of it, and like I said, Arbor Day every year, they hand out free trees, and they don't just go to, like, the park behind it and go, "Cut one down yourself, pal." They don't do that, so if you just look around and say, like, "Oh, okay, we have a swing set over here," or we have, we have a city-run food pantry, so food has to get to those things, and it's not just necessarily, like, me and my CRV showing up to the food pantry with like I can't fit a pallet in there, you know? Turns out CRVs aren't the best all industrial thing. So that's where you kind of have those partners because your city government and your county government move quite a bit more than you think they do.
Yeah, I'll share something on this platform. So my 8-figure contract that I was awarded, sole awardee, only me, was awarded this contract, 8 figures, is a state level contract, hauling of medication in a box about this size.
Okay.
So anywhere from this size to I would say about this size here.
Just
And that is a 8-figure contract
just like
on the
a real
state,
small operation.
and it's refrigerated, and so that also is a new vertical in the company to where we're leveraging, courier services, and so you don't even have to have a semi truck. You can have a box truck, a cargo van, or a civilian vehicle, and we have refrigeration inside of those units, to keep the medication and the vaccines cold.
That is, first of all, congratulations. That is a massive award. A
Retired my mom
massive
with that one. Yeah.
That is a massive award, and that is a huge accomplishment, so well done. But that's, like it's just something like that that, like, just ask some of your partners, like, "Hey, are you guys looking at this? Is this something that you've thought of?" Because if they haven't or if they are bidding on stuff, you can say, like, if you're a reefer carrier and you have a flatbed friend that has bid on some stuff, you can say, like, "Hey, if you wanna bid on some stuff that's got reefer, call me." It's just all about talking to those people that you're already talking to every day.
Yep, yep.
So, that being said, Melanie, we are almost out of time, but
Oh,
let's touch
gosh.
on 2 more things, and one is gonna be probably the toughest question you've been asked today.
Let's do
But
it.
before we get to that, what is, like, that one takeaway that you want someone to have when it comes to government contracting and logistics and transportation that we might not have necessarily covered? What's, like, that one thing that you're like, "It's alright. Don't worry about it."
Mm, one thing, just one thing, Mary,
I'll
just
give you 2 if you want to have 2.
we'll stick with it. So just one thing that I would like to share with our community in regard to government contracting and transportation and logistics, I would say a few things, right? So do it scared, but just do it. Oftentimes we feel like, oh, I'm a small carrier. Oh, I only have two, three, four, 8 units. Do it scared, do it uncomfortable, but hurry up and do it. And so I am in the same bidding room as TQL, right? And who's going to get the opportunity before TQL if you meet the set aside goal that you're a small business, that you're a minority business, that you're a woman owned business, right? I would before they would, even though they're so large, they're massive, right? And so don't really limit yourself in the space of government contracting because they are aware of the power of up to and they are aware of the power in relationships and partnerships, and that's what you leverage to get you over that hump of being small. And so I say do it scared, go, jump, bid. You have to bid to win, and so do it scared, but just do
I
it.
I love that. Not only for, this, thing, but do it scared everything, like, who
Yeah.
cares? What's the worst that could happen? You go to bid on something and you don't get it and your business remains unchanged and you've wasted a couple hours of your time? Okay.
Or it works,
Yeah.
and you have a well-established business with the government as one of your customers, and you are creating employment, you are growing the business, you are
Yeah.
retiring your mother, you are doing all great things. What if it works? What
What
if
if
it
it
works?
works? You won't know until you try.
Yep.
I absolutely love that. Um, Going back to something that might be scary. I don't know your thoughts on cereal and soup, but we're gonna find out. Melanie, is cereal considered a soup?
You know what? That is a crazy question, an interesting question, and I'm not like, is cereal soup? I guess
Mm,
you kinda can say cereal can be considered a soup, um, if you're feeling a little marching to the beat of your own drums, so we have the liquid, which is the milk,
good for
and
women.
then we have like the solid chunks that possibly could be in there, which is the cereal. And then you consume it with a spoon.
Yeah.
So cereal is a soup.
Ugh, I am team cereal's not a soup, but also I don't eat cereal with milk very often. Um,
Okay, well, there you have it. Okay.
it's just like but, like, I also know that I'm an anomaly, that I don't like to put
You're
it's
a
too
unicorn.
soggy,
You're a
and it's
unicorn.
like, I like the crunch. I know that it's weird, but I like the crunch that cereal gives me.
Okay.
But also, no shade to those that like a good milk. There are people who just use it as, like, a vessel to drink milk out of a bowl, which I also think is disgusting when you drink your milky leftover cereal. No, I cannot
Oh,
watch
that's the
people do
best
that.
part. I don't know about you, but in Tom and Jerry, what? That was
Mm.
yes. So, we have a difference in opinions, but
But
that's
that's
what
okay.
is so beautiful. That's what makes
Exactly.
this beautiful, beautiful, harmonious friendship. And
Exactly.
so I would say, yeah, cereal can be considered a soup for sure.
It could be. I don't
It
like that conclusion, so I'm
I
not
know.
going with it, but
Sorry,
to each his
Jerry.
own.
I know.
All right, Melanie, where can
I love
everyone
Mel,
find
by the way.
Okay, perfect.
I think we're on a Mel. We're on a Mel kind of basis.
All right, Mel. So, where can everyone find you outside the show? If they're like, "Holy cow, I wanna learn more. I just wanna figure out how you did it." Where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So Team Integrity Knowledge Center on all platforms. So Team Integrity Knowledge Center, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then me personally, Melanie Patterson on all social media as well. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all those amazing places. Direct email info at teamintegrityknowledgecenter.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a blast again. And again, if you did not check out our Small Fleet Owner Operator Summit chat, go back and do it because it was just as good as this one.
Mm.
Thank you again so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You can catch other episodes of Running on Ice right here on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts like Apple Podcast and Spotify. Need more Running on Ice news? No sweat. Subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/running on ice. See you on the internet.